A young woman carefully dresses up with a gentle smile, but she's actually going on a blind date in place of her friend. She squeezes into uncomfortable high heels and prepares to leave, and before heading out, the two of them even come up with a plan to ruin the date on purpose. However, on the way, an unexpected car accident happens. Hwang Hee-tae happens to pass by and witnesses it, but it is Kim Myung-hee who quickly rushes over to help. As she takes off her outerwear to stop a child's bleeding, she shines brightly under the sunlight. This moment catches Hee-tae's attention, leaving a deep impression on him. But Myung-hee doesn't have time to think much about it and hurries to an upscale restaurant, anxiously waiting for her blind date. Meanwhile, realizing she might be late, Myung-hee rushes there too, not even bothering about the blood stains from helping earlier. When she finally sits down, Hee-tae is surprised to see that his blind date is the same woman who had just saved someone. He is instantly delighted, almost like a child, but Myung-hee remembers her mission for her friend and begins acting. While Hee-tae orders only coffee, Myung-hee orders beer and gulps it down carelessly, ignoring her image. She expects him to be put off, but instead, he follows along and even praises the beer. When that doesn't work, she starts listing harsh conditions. She won't do housework or have children after marriage. Unexpectedly, Hee-tae agrees to everything without hesitation. Frustrated, Myung-hee tries another tactic, taking him to a messy, low-quality restaurant. She eats boldly, thinking someone like him wouldn't tolerate it, but he calmly enjoys the food even more than she does. Feeling helpless, Myung-hee uses her final move, pretending to be materialistic. She takes him to a luxury store, picks up an expensive bag, and is shocked by the price, while Hee-tae casually tells her to buy whatever she wants. Still, she can't bring herself to accept it and chooses something else instead. Hee-tae notices her uncomfortable shoes and thoughtfully gives her a gift. In the end, her plan to ruin the date fails completely. Later, she reports everything to her friend, who gets angry. When they open the gift, they find a pair of shoes that fit perfectly. Myung-hee is surprised and touched, as she has never worn such good shoes before. She carefully stores them away. It turns out she had recently earned a chance to study abroad, but couldn't afford the expensive ticket, which is why she agreed to take her friend's place on the blind date in exchange for it. The next day, while crossing the street, Myung-hee nearly gets into danger, but Hee-tae pulls her back just in time. Their eyes meet, and for a brief moment, there's a spark between them. Embarrassed, she pulls away and quickly boards a bus, only for Hee-tae to follow her. Even the bus conductor notices their situation and helps them sit together. Later, they go to a fancy restaurant again. Myung-hee struggles with using cutlery, but Hee-tae cleverly pretends he doesn't know how to use it either, saving her from embarrassment. Suddenly, a colleague from Myung-hee's hospital shows up, and afraid of being exposed, she hides her face. Not fully understanding but sensing her discomfort, Hee-tae intervenes by creating a distraction. However, as they leave, Myung-hee twists her ankle because of her ill-fitting shoes. Hee-tae carries her and wants to take her to the hospital, but since she works there, she refuses to avoid being exposed. Instead, they go by the riverside, where he gently treats her injury and helps her change into more comfortable shoes. As they sit together, quietly enjoying the moment, Myung-hee begins to feel her heart waver. But she knows this situation is temporary, like a fragile illusion. Hee-tae will eventually discover the truth. And indeed, that truth comes sooner than expected. The next day, Hee-tae visits her friend's house, and the deception is on the verge of being exposed as the three of them confront each other. Surprisingly, instead of revealing everything, Hee-tae chooses to continue the act. When questioned, he reveals his reason. He has already fallen in love with Myung-hee, the one who came in place of her friend. Hearing this, her friend becomes angry and warns him not to get involved with Myung-hee, explaining that she only did this for the plane ticket and doesn't truly like him. Meanwhile, Myung-hee watches silently from upstairs, unaware that Hee-tae has confessed his feelings. Later, when she comes downstairs, Hee-tae tightly holds her hand, refusing to let go until someone interrupts them. Before leaving, he slips a small note into her hand. Hee-tae asks Myung-hee to meet him that evening. After returning home, Myung-hee opens the note and hesitates, unsure whether she should go. Her younger brother, in his innocent but sharp way, describes her feelings perfectly and encourages her. In the end, she decides to meet him. At the restaurant, Myung-hee gets straight to the point, saying she's not good enough for Hwang Hee-tae. But he simply smiles and responds in a way that catches her off guard. Even though she's moved by his sincerity, she still carries her own burdens and is about to explain when the landlord's daughter suddenly shows up, clearly drawn to Hee-tae's looks. The moment she sees Myung-hee, she quickly leaves, afraid she might report her. Her interruption lightens the tense mood. Since it's getting late, Myung-hee offers to escort her home. Unexpectedly, before leaving, Hee-tae even asks the landlord's daughter for her phone number. The next day, after thinking it over, Myung-hee decides to meet Hee-tae again to finish what she couldn't say before. She tells him that if they are to continue, there must be a time limit. Once her overseas training ends, everything between them must also end. Even so, she admits that the time they've spent together already feels longer and more meaningful than anything else. They shake hands as she thanks him for the beautiful memories, though deep down, she finds it hard to let go. Not long after, Hee-tae uses the landlord's daughter's contact to find where Myung-hee lives. However, no matter what, she refuses to let him inside. During their struggle at the doorway, it becomes clear that Hee-tae hasn't given up. To stay close to her, this wealthy young man even becomes a tutor for the landlord's daughter. The landlord seems to catch on and deliberately invites Hee-tae for drinks, keeping him overnight. Late at night, Hee-tae goes into the yard and plays the guitar, trying to get Myung-hee's attention. Then, boldly, he confesses, telling her directly that he likes her and will continue to do so. Hearing this, Myung-hee blushes deeply. As his music fills the air, memories of their time together flash through her mind. She says nothing, simply watching him quietly. But the next day, when she submits her resignation letter with a faint but genuine smile, it's already clear what her answer is. The following day, they visit an orphanage together to see the children. Myung-hee asks Hee-tae to entertain them, but he hesitates at first. Under her insistence, he patiently interacts with each child. When one particular child keeps staring hungrily at his bread, Hee-tae gently shares it. However, while Myung-hee is speaking with a nun, Hee-tae suddenly rushes in carrying that same child, panicking. The child is sweating and looks very unwell. Hee-tae is visibly shaken, not at all like a composed doctor. Myung-hee reassures him that it's just acute gastroenteritis and that the child will recover soon. Curious about his panic, she asks him what's wrong. Hee-tae then reveals a painful past. He used to secretly treat patients who couldn't go to the hospital due to their circumstances, but once, he failed to save a critically ill patient. Ever since, he's been trapped in guilt. Myung-hee listens carefully and tries to comfort him, though it's unclear whether her words can truly free him from that burden. After returning from the orphanage, Hee-tae still waits for Myung-hee's answer. But she tells him to wait until the next day. The following day, he shows up with flowers, full of hope and nervous anticipation. However, when Myung-hee arrives, her face is filled with worry. Before he can even speak, she gives him a cold and decisive answer. Myung-hee gives Hee-tae a cold answer. She asks him to get engaged to her best friend, Lee Soo-ryan. Even though she still deeply loves him, she forces herself to say it. The truth is, before meeting him, she had run into Soo-ryan, who tearfully begged her to give Hee-tae up. Their marriage wasn't about love but a powerful family arrangement. Hee-tae's father held immense authority, and even Hee-tae himself was just a pawn in that system. Worse still, Soo-ryan had been caught in a compromising situation, and if she didn't go through with the engagement, her entire family could suffer. All of this had started because of Soo-ryan's impulsive decision to let Myung-hee take her place on the blind date. Now, Myung-hee carries the burden of fixing everything. When she tells Hee-tae to accept Soo-ryan, her heart is breaking, but she refuses to let her friend lose face or let the man she loves defy his father and face consequences. However, Hee-tae doesn't seem to accept it. The next day, out of anger and frustration, he goes straight to Soo-ryan's house and agrees to the engagement without hesitation. Even Soo-ryan is shocked by how suddenly he accepts it. Meanwhile, Myung-hee silently endures the pain, preparing for her trip abroad and taking her passport photos. On her way to process her documents, she runs into her childhood friend's cousin, who has always liked her. He treats her kindly, even offering her food, but it only reminds her of the warmth she shared with Hitae. Later, when they go shopping together, he tries to pick out a gift for her, but Myung-hee feels nothing for him, making the moment awkward. What makes things worse is that in the same department store, Hitae and Soo Ryan are also there, choosing outfits for their engagement ceremony. The four of them end up in the same space, and the atmosphere becomes unbearably tense. Only the cousin, who knows nothing, seems completely out of place. Seeing Myung-hee with another man, Hitae becomes jealous. When they meet again at a street corner, he can no longer suppress his emotions and finally lets everything out. At the engagement ceremony, Myung-hee watches as the man she loves walks in hand with her best friend. Every step they take feels like a knife cutting into her heart. When the guests applaud, she stands there in silence, lost in her thoughts. Later that night, she sees Hitae alone in the garden, smoking in solitude. He notices that on such an important day, she isn't wearing the gift from her cousin, but instead, the very first gift he had given her. His eyes fill with emotion as he looks at her. At that moment, Myung-hee can no longer hold back. She finally confesses everything she has been hiding in her heart. As her tears fall, Hitae makes a bold and reckless decision. He grabs her hand and runs. Right there, during his own engagement, he elopes with his fiancée's best friend. They escape to a quiet place, where Hitae gently cups her face, and the two silently gaze into each other. They exchange tokens of love, sealing their feelings. As they slowly move closer, time seems to stand still. Eventually, Myung-hee shyly returns home, while Hitae looks at the earring she gave him, smiling like a child, savoring the feeling of love. What he doesn't know is that Soo Ryan had witnessed everything. She saw them run away together but chose not to expose them. Instead, she even covered for Hitae in front of the elders, because she knew that the two of them truly loved each other, and that this situation was something she had caused herself. However, while she managed to fool the guests, she couldn't deceive Hitae's father, a powerful figure in military intelligence. Nothing escapes his eyes. The next morning, Hitae is still lost in thoughts of Myung-hee as he looks at the earring, until his father suddenly walks in, locking the door behind him. For the first time, Hitae stands his ground against him, his eyes filled with defiance. But his father remains cold and composed, reminding him that being the son of such a powerful family is not something he can easily escape from. Later, Soo Ryan visits, easing the tension slightly, though she can't hide her fear of Hitae's father. Even though she doesn't truly love Hitae, she still plays her role as his fiancée in front of others. Hitae claims he isn't afraid, but his body betrays his unease. And then, the next day, Soo Ryan's older brother suddenly calls Hitae. Lee, Soo Ryan's older brother, invites Hwang Hitae out for drinks, saying he just wants to chat with his future brother-in-law. Hitae initially wants to refuse, worried the truth might come out, but the brother speaks casually, so he agrees. However, during the drinking, the mood suddenly shifts. The brother, who was smiling moments ago, turns cold when the topic of the engagement comes up. He sharply questions Hitae about why he disappeared during the ceremony. It turns out he had seen everything that night, the two of them running away together. He warns Hitae to stay away from Kim Myung-hee and to know when to stop. But instead of backing down, Hitae simply smiles, already aware that the brother also has feelings for Myung-hee. He turns the question around, asking whether this meeting is really about Soo Ryan or something else. That question hits a nerve, leaving the brother speechless. Unwilling to give up, the brother waits for Myung-hee on her way home the next day, trying to persuade her to leave Hitae. He explains all the consequences and dangers involved, but for the first time in her life, Myung-hee doesn't waver. She finally chooses to stand by her own decision. In the past, she had always suppressed herself. Back in her student days, a mistake led to her being humiliated and expelled before finishing school, leaving deep emotional scars. Even after starting work, she would quietly accept unfair treatment from colleagues without suturov. She had never truly made her own choices, but this time, she decides to fight for her love. After failing to convince her, the brother is left heartbroken. He drowns himself in alcohol at a bar and even reveals his hidden feelings in front of his sister. His jealousy and pain quietly grow into something dangerous. Meanwhile, Myung-hee and Hee-tae meet at a station, choosing to follow their hearts. Their relationship quickly deepens. They spend the day together, eating at a restaurant, studying in a library, and enjoying simple, peaceful moments. By the time they return to that familiar street corner, their love has finally become something real and undeniable. As Hee-tae watches Myung-hee walk home, everything seems warm and hopeful. But suddenly, on her way back, she is ambushed, her head is covered with a sack, and she is kidnapped by two men. When the sack is removed, she panics, thinking they are criminals, and tries to negotiate her way out. But their reaction feels strange. Looking around, she realizes she's actually in a well-equipped interrogation room. The men even openly reveal their identities, which only makes the situation more unsettling. Myung-hee, realizing she has done nothing wrong, becomes angry and questions them, but is met with a harsh blow that knocks her unconscious. The next morning, she wakes up to someone gently brushing her hair aside. When she focuses, she recognizes the man. It is Hee-tae's father. The memory of the engagement night flashes back, and everything clicks into place. What follows chills her to the core. With just a few fabricated pieces of evidence, he accuses her of crimes and has her passport application cancelled. For Myung-hee, this punishment is devastating. She had spent 10 years overcoming her past, working tirelessly to earn the opportunity to study abroad. Now, with baseless accusations, her future is once again destroyed. She desperately asks why, but he only responds with a faint, knowing smile, saying nothing. In that moment, she understands, this is the power of someone who controls the system. In a society where authority dominates justice, people like her have no choice but to endure. After she is released, Myung-hee sits alone outside the company building of Soo Ryan's brother, hoping he might help her find a way to fix her passport issue. But the outcome is not what she hopes for. And what she doesn't realize is that things are about to get even worse. It is finally revealed that Soo Ryan's older brother is the true catalyst behind everything. After Myung-hee leaves, he is consumed by guilt and regret. He, too, has long loved her, but when he saw Hee-tae being engaged to his sister while still loving Myung-hee, jealousy twisted his judgment. In a moment of bitterness, he exposed their relationship to his father. He had only intended to use the broken engagement as leverage to pressure Hee-tae's family, but he completely underestimated how ruthless Hee-tae's father could be. During the confrontation between the families, Hee-tae's father questions Soo Ryan directly. Though she knows the truth, that the love between Hee-tae and Myung-hee began because of her, she is too afraid to speak up. Having already witnessed his power, she denies knowing anything. That single denial pushes Myung-hee deeper into despair. Hee-tae's father then bows slightly, admitting fault in raising his son, but promises to handle the situation. He has no intention of letting a marriage tied to power and Yi fall apart. After everything happens, Hee-tae tries to find Myung-hee the next day, but she is nowhere to be found. At her workplace, he learns she has never missed a day before, yet suddenly she's absent. A sense of dread creeps in. He realizes something must be wrong. Desperate, he goes to the police, only to be told that a missing adult cannot be reported until 72 hours have passed. Unable to wait, he tracks down her hometown through her younger brother, but still finds no trace of her. Her parents warmly invite him to eat, unaware of the storm inside him. Just as he's about to leave in disappointment, Myung-hee appears. But she looks exhausted and pale. When Hee-tae runs toward her, there's no joy in her eyes, only fear. She even instinctively steps back. When he grabs her hand, asking what happened, she forcefully pulls away and walks off without looking back. Though desperate for answers, he senses her pain and doesn't chase her, instead waiting quietly at the station. But when Myung-hee sees him again, she pretends not to notice and walks away. He follows, unable to hold back, and demands to know the truth. Her answer leaves him stunned. She claims she has never even met his father. It's a lie meant to protect him, but it only deepens the distance between them. Back home, Myung-hee collapses into tears. The reason she's pushing him away isn't just because she lost her chance to study abroad, it's because of the threat she received. In that interrogation room, Hee-tae's father warned her that if they continued their relationship, he would destroy Hee-tae's future as well. Even his own son would not be spared. That threat strikes at her core. She is someone who would rather suffer alone than harm the person she loves. Meanwhile, Hitae tries to deceive his father by pretending he's moved on, casually mentioning another girl. But he underestimates him. His father sees through the act immediately and orders him to leave the city. In desperation, Hitae even kneels, begging his father to spare Myung-hee, but it changes nothing. The next day, he goes to say goodbye to her, hoping they can at least part on peaceful terms. As they separate, he silently wishes she would turn back and look at him one last time, but all he gets is the sound of a cold door closing. Afterward, Hitae leaves the city with someone he doesn't love. Everywhere he goes, whether it's a coin on the street or a familiar song in a taxi, reminds him of Myung-hee. At the same time, Myung-hee spends her days in church, trying to release her pain. Even when Soo Ryan's brother tries to make amends by offering everything he has to help her regain her chance to study abroad, she cannot feel any happiness. The weight in her heart is too heavy. Eventually, Soo Ryan can no longer bear the guilt. She tells Hitae the real reason Myung-hee pushed him away and urges him to return to her. But, unexpectedly, Hitae tells himself that going back to Myung-hee would only bring more pain. As long as his father stands in the way, their love can never be free. But not long after, he can't hold back anymore. The two of them meet again at that familiar street corner. Tears fill their eyes. Yet even if it means getting hurt again, it feels better than living with regret forever. Not long after, chaos erupts. While Myung-hee is dozing on a bus, soldiers suddenly storm in, beating civilians without warning. Terrified, she escapes in the confusion, only to be caught outside. Just as a soldier is about to strike her, Hitae appears and takes the blow for her. He fights back, but he's clearly outmatched. In desperation, Myung-hee grabs a wooden stick and strikes the soldier, and together they barely manage to escape. They hide in an alley, discussing how to leave the city. But when Myung-hee sees the blood on Hitae's forehead, she insists on going to the hospital first. Because of the late hour and the curfew, they are forced to stay there overnight and plan to leave in the morning. However, when Hitae wakes up the next day, Myung-hee is gone. As he searches for her, he finds the hospital overflowing with injured people. When he finally sees her, she's already wearing her nurse uniform, treating patients as if nothing else matters. Frustrated that she broke their plan, he confronts her, but in the middle of their argument, a colleague throws him a white coat, urging him to help since he studied medicine. At first, he hesitates. He has never truly worked as a doctor and doubts himself. But seeing Myung-hee tirelessly caring for the wounded, he gives in and puts on the coat. Despite his inexperience, he begins helping patients, though the chaos overwhelms him. Soon, a large number of severely injured people are brought in, victims of brutal military crackdowns. The army, acting on suspicion of hidden spies, has begun arresting and attacking civilians indiscriminately. Innocent people, students, and even teachers are caught in the violence. As the number of critical patients increases, Hitae makes a difficult decision, prioritizing a severely injured patient for surgery. This angers other families waiting in line, causing tension and conflict. Though his actions are medically justified, he's shaken by the backlash and begins to doubt himself again. Overwhelmed, he steps away, only to find a young female student lying unconscious in the hallway. Her pulse is weak, and the situation reminds him of the patient he once failed to save. Fear grips him, and for a moment he freezes. But this time, he refuses to run. Gathering his courage, he kneels and performs CPR, pressing again and again until sweat pours down his face. Finally, the girl responds. Relief washes over him. Later, Myung-hee tells him that without his quick action, the girl wouldn't have survived. In that moment, Hitae truly understands what it means to be a doctor, and at last, he overcomes the guilt that has haunted him for so long. That evening, as they prepare to leave at last, Hitae makes a surprising choice. He decides to stay. Myung-hee says nothing, only holding his hand and smiling softly, silently supporting his decision. But just when it seems like they've found purpose in the chaos, something unimaginable happens. The next day, among the incoming patients, one suddenly raises a weapon, originally meant to protect people, and points it at them. The situation has spiraled far beyond anything they could have imagined. Hitae is injured during the chaos, and he and Myung-hee have no choice but to flee to a church, hoping it will be safer. But in a time where the military acts without restraint, even a sacred place offers no real protection. Amid all the fear and uncertainty, a simple wedding takes place. There are no flowers, no decorations, yet the couple feels shasrif, because they have endured so much just to reach this moment. But just as the bride is about to read her vows, a priest rushes in with devastating news. Her father has been found dead. In an instant, the joyful ceremony turns into a scene of grief. It is revealed that the night before, her father had tried to take her younger brother through a restricted zone. When soldiers discovered them, he let go of his son's hand and sacrificed himself to draw attention away. What he leaves behind is only a bankbook and a final letter. When Myung-hee reads the letter, she learns the truth. Her father had always carried deep guilt for her past suffering. Every bit of money she sent home he had carefully saved, intending to support her dream of studying abroad. He never expected forgiveness, he only wanted to quietly protect her in his own way. Realizing this, Myung-hee breaks down, remembering his lonely figure every time he left home. Not long after, while she steps out briefly, her younger brother wakes up feeling lost and alone. In his innocence, he takes a map and tries to cross the restricted zone by himself to find their mother. When Myung-hee and Hitae return and discover he's missing, they immediately go out to search for him, despite the danger. At a fork in the road, they split up to cover more ground, a decision that will haunt them forever. Hitae runs into soldiers while searching and is nearly killed, mistaken for a spy. Fortunately, one soldier recognizes him and spares his life. At the same time, Myung-hee finds her brother in the forest, but soldiers are closing in. Hiding behind rocks, she sees there's no escape. In a desperate moment, she makes the same choice her father did. She ties her brother's shoelaces tightly, tells him to run, and steps out with her hands raised, drawing attention to herself. But just then, a soldier spots the fleeing boy and raises his weapon. A gunshot rings out. Myung-hee falls, her blood staining the simple white dress she once wore with hope. And just like that, her youth, her May, comes to an end. Years later, after martial law is lifted, Hitae spends decades searching for her. For 41 years, he never gives up. Time turns him into an old man, but his love remains unchanged. At last, at a construction site, her remains are discovered. All that is left of her are a few belongings, her father's watch and the wedding vows she never got to read. In the end, Hitae writes a letter to her, one that will never reach her, and gently places it on her grave, as if speaking to the love he has carried in his heart for a lifetime.